Hey, kia ora. Helen Brown's here coming to you live from Surprise in Arizona. Hope you're having a super fantastic sparkling day. Welcome to Before the Dirt Nap podcast number 1573, James Bond Reinvented. Yes, continuing with our James Bond theme this month. We are up to James Bond movie number 21. But first, on James Bond 20 last night with Die Another Day, how many references did you see to all 20 James Bond movies? And I said yes, all 20, because when they are in the archive room, there's a lot of different stuff in there. And I was sitting there, I was going, and I had to go back and pause the movie, and then I could identify most of the stuff that was in there. But John Cleese, who was playing Q, hands James Bond his watch and goes, I believe this is the 20th one that you have had. So that was the reference to the 20th movie. But in that archive room, there was the alligator that was used in Octopussy when he was sneaking around the waters. There was the plane that was used in, it's the one that came out of the back of the horse trailer. And they did the sideways scene. Hang on, I got to go back through I should have looked at this before. No, that was the wrong one. It wasn't that one. Oh, yeah. It was an Octopussy as well, that plane. So I remembered it last night, but I remembered I had seen it just recently, but I couldn't remember the name of the movie. I just looked back. It was Octopussy as well. So there was lots of different things, including the jetpack that was used in Thunderball. Does this thing still work? And being James Bond, he just fiddles as normal. So there was a lot of good stuff in that. So tonight we see the reinvention of James Bond with Daniel Craig coming on in his first of 5 movies. All I know is that it spans 13 years. It spans 13 years. 13 years. Hang on, I've got to do my math again. Sorry, 15 years. Let's see. He goes 21, 22, 23, 24, and 20. So he's got 5 James Bond movies that span 15 years. And so it's quite interesting. So a few facts, because somebody actually asked me, like, what ages were these actors when they first started playing James Bond? So I actually had to go look that up, because I thought I've never actually thought about that before, because they've all been different ages. So the youngest James Bond, when he first took on the role of James, so there were 6 actors that took on the role of James Bond. Out of the 6, George Lazenby was actually the youngest. He was 29 years old when he did On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Then was Sean Connery. He was 32 when he did Dr. No. He was, let me see, I've got here on my notes, 37 when he did You Only Live Twice, which was technically his last James Bond movie, but then he came back after On Her Majesty's Secret Service and did Diamonds Are Forever, and he was 41 when he did that. Then came Daniel Craig. He was 38 when he did Casino Royale, and he was 53 when he did No Time to Die. Because, like I said, 15 years between over his 5 movies that he did. Timothy Dalton was 41 when he did Living Daylights and 43 with License to Kill. Pierce Brosnan was 42 when he started with GoldenEye and 49 when he ended with Die Another Day. And Roger Moore was the oldest one by far. He was 45 when he started with Live and Let Die, and he was 57 when he ended The View to a Kill. So just a little bit of trivia there for you. So Casino Royale is actually the 3rd screen adaptation of Ian Fleming's novels of the same name. In 1954, they had a TV series that had Brian Nelson playing James Bond. In 1967, they had David Niven playing James Bond in the spoof movie, the James Bond spoof movie that incorporated the first 4 movies, because that's all that had come out at the time. And then, of course, 2006 with Daniel Craig. In this movie, we see no Q and no Moneypenny. We don't see those characters again until Skyfall. And that's when they come back in again. Now, this is really cool how they have done this movie. So the director for this movie is New Zealander Martin Campbell. This is his 2nd time directing a James Bond movie. What was his first one? His first one was GoldenEye. Yes, GoldenEye. I didn't think. So this is now 2 movies in a row that have been done by New Zealand actors, because Lee Tomahori did Die Another Day and Martin Campbell did Casino Royale, so 20 and 21. And then Martin Campbell had also done GoldenEye as well. Now, with the reinvention of James Bond, you get to see how he gets his 00 license. And right at the beginning, when they bring up the MGM lion right at the start, it's in black and white. And it stays in black and white all up until the credits. Actually, just before the credits, because you know how after you see, if you ever watched the James Bond movie, you see the studios that come up there as MGM. Then there was United Artists for a while. And then it comes along with the dot that comes along, and then it comes back, and you're looking down the gun barrel as James Bond, whoever it is, walks across in front and turns and shoots, and you have the blood come down. That scene doesn't happen until the end of the black and white scene. And it's really cool how it's done. It's a very different gun barrel that you're looking down. But basically, Daniel Craig picks up a gun off the floor, turns around, and shoots the person who he'd been fighting with. And that's when you see the red come down, and then they go into completely animated opening credits, which hasn't been done since Dr. No, because all the other credits have had real people in them. Yep, they're doing all sorts of really cool stuff there and the things, but this is the first one that's been total animation since Dr. No. So that's been a long time, considering the fact that Dr. No came out in 1962. And so that's really cool opening scene with the black and white thing about how he gets his 00 license. This is the first James Bond movie not to have Moneypenny. Moneypenny's been there since Dr. No all the way through to Die Another Day. See how he does that. The gun barrel, done that one. I'm just looking at my list. Done that one. There is some really cool chases in this movie, I have to tell you. After the credits, you see the chief, who is the bad guy that you get to know very well throughout the movie. You see him in Uganda, and he's collecting money from these mercenaries, I think it is. Mercenaries. They're all dressed in military outfits and all that sort of stuff. And he's going to invest it for them. Well, he actually ends up in the movie losing the money, and then he has this Texas Hold'em tournament to win it back. But the first half of the movie is actually setting everything up to that point where we go to the Texas Hold'em game. And then the second half is mainly the Texas Hold'em tournament, followed by some other stuff. But in the meantime, you have, as soon as he picks up the money and goes, you then go to Madagascar, and the most incredible foot chase in a James Bond movie takes place. The last time there was a foot chase in a James Bond movie was, trying to remember. I can't remember which one it was. Oh, I've totally forgotten which other. So it's been a long time since the other one, because I think it's right back at the beginning. I think it might be Thunderball, but I'm not 100% sure. I'll figure it out. So they have this incredible foot chase, and it is just amazing. The guy who is being chased, what he can do. I mean, you're talking going up steel girders in a building site. They're going on cranes. They're jumping from one crane to another crane onto rooftop buildings, going through construction sites. You know how you see those videos of people doing that thing where they basically climb walls with doing leaps and stuff and all of that sort of things, and dives, and yeah, you get to see all of that. It's phenomenal. It's a phenomenal foot chase. It really is. Then we move down to the Bahamas, and then from there we go to where do we go from there? I can't remember where we go from there, but we end up at the airport, and there is, and if you're watching for it, you will see it, but it's quick. It's very quick. Take note when James Bond is watching security. Richard Branson goes through security, and then he turns and faces the camera, and his arms up like this as he's been wanded. It's like 5 seconds. But yeah, he made a cameo appearance in the movie. Yeah, so you get to see that. If you keep an eye out for it, you will see it. But it's right at the beginning of the airport scene when James Bond first walks in. He's following somebody through there. He's keeping an eye on security about how people are getting through and that sort of stuff. Then there is this massive airport chase through the airport out onto the tarmac, back through the airport. There's just this massive airport chase. It's pretty cool. When you get to the Texas Hold'em thing, James Bond actually loses all of his money and has to get more money. And the person who is overseeing his financing thing from the British government says no. And in comes Felix Leiter. This is the Felix Leiter we get to meet. This is their first meeting. And he offers to stake James Bond to get him back into the game again. So they get him back in the game. And during one of the breaks, somebody poisons his drink and he actually ends up kind of like having a heart attack. And so he goes out of the car where he has a defibrillator in the car. And he's doing everything that they're telling him to do over the phone because the MI6 people are giving him instructions what to do. And then one of the girls comes out and actually rescues him and gets everything on there and presses the button because he's got everything on. He just hasn't pressed the button. And then he comes back and the game continues. Then at the end of the game, the chief, because he lost the money to James Bond, of course, he kidnaps James Bond, or actually kidnaps Vesper, who's the James Bond girl, and James Bond ends up coming in and getting captured and tortured by Le Chiffre. They end up getting rescued. James Bond and Vesper fall in love. Then he retires from MI6, and then she betrays him. And there's a whole scene with that, and she ends up dying. And then he ends up coming back to MI6. Now, this is another interesting fact that I found out in reading all of my James Bond books I have on the bookcases behind me, beyond the curtains. Eon Productions actually didn't get the rights to Casino Royale till 1999. They were actually held by, the screen rights were held by Casino Royale were held by Sunny Entertainment. And so in 1999, Eon Productions and Sunny Entertainment came to an agreement, and Eon Productions wanted Casino Royale, which was held by Sunny Entertainment. MGM had the rights to Spider-Man, which Sunny Entertainment wanted. So did as well. Yep. So Sunny Entertainment's, that's why they produce Spider-Man. That's how they ended up doing that. And that's how Eon Productions ended up with Casino Royale to do. Let's see. That's a lot in there, isn't there? Okay, so what do I think of this one? I like this one. It's grown. When I first saw it, I was sort of like a little annoyed because I thought, he was too old to be a James Bond, not realizing what his age was at the time. But the more times I've watched it, the more I've come to see that, this was a reinvention of James Bond, the character. But the only inconsistency is that in GoldenEye, in GoldenEye, M is calling him a sexist, misogynist dinosaur. And now here she is issuing James Bond his 00 license. To me, there was a little inconsistency there. I thought that they should have had a different M in there, but I love Judi Dench, so I'm going to forgive them for that a little bit. That was the only little inconsistency. But Daniel Craig brings a different edge to James Bond. He's got this rough edge about him, which suits the reinvention perfectly because he's just gotten his 00 license, so he's finding his way as a 00, breaking all the rules, which is a trait with James Bond. They bend the rules so far and may break them a little bit, as we've seen in all the other 20 movies prior. But he brings a rough edge to the James Bond character, and it's sort of like, it's really hard to describe because all the other ones sort of had these quirky little fun little things along the way, and they were these suave, they had found their way. They were the other James Bond movie, this is when they were well established as a 00. They had been on several assignments. They had their own quirks and all that. This one with Daniel Craig, he is finding his way. He's just become a 00. He's a brand new 00. And so there's a bit of roughness about him, which doesn't fully, in the 5 movies, doesn't fully get smoothed out. That's always there. It's just who he is and how he portrays the character, which I think is awesome. But yeah, I love that roughness about it. Oh, and one thing I almost forgot was that he is also the shortest James Bond. The other 5 actors, Sean Connery, George Lazenby, Roger Moore, Timothy Dalton, and Pierce Brosnan are all over 6 foot. Daniel Craig is 5 foot 10 inches. So he is the shortest James Bond that we've had. So that's another one there. But he's got this, I just don't know. There's this rough edge. You see the rough edge get smoothed out, but it never goes away in the whole time that he plays James Bond. And I kind of like that rough edge because it brings a different dimension to a James Bond. And I think he's got the suaveness in there, but there's just something about him when he's in a tuxedo, he looks amazing. But just the way he carries himself, the way he portrays the actor, there's just this, yes, I look fantastic in this tuxedo, but there's just a little rough edge in there. And you can see it coming through. He's a lot more, out of all of the James Bond character, out of all the actors who have played James Bond, I think Daniel Craig is the most serious one out of all of them. They've all had their little quirks and everything, but I think he is I think Daniel Craig is the more serious one out of them. But then again, he's a greenhorn. He's just got his 00 license. He's finding his way. So anyway, let me know what you think about Casino Royale in the comments below. Like it, hate it. What do you think of Daniel Craig as James Bond? And that is all I have for you. I'm now going to go and sit down, plant my butt in a seat, and go watch James Bond, Casino Royale, the reinvention. I actually kind of like this one. At first I didn't kind of like it. I kind of sort of liked it, but not liked it. But I really do like this one. It's up there with one of my favorite James Bond. And trust me, they're all in very close. When anybody says, what's your favorite James Bond? I just look at them and go, yeah, because they're all very, very close as to who's got first, second, and third. And there's a lot that are on the first level. But they're all very, very close as to favorite. There's not one that I can turn around and say, yeah, I really don't like that one. I like them all in varying degrees. Anyway, I'm out of here. Tomorrow evening, we will be here with a really amazing guest. She is awesome. And that's all I'm going to tell you about her. But her story is incredible. So she's going to be coming in live from Hawaii. So tune in tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Pacific to catch our guest tomorrow evening. And until then, go out and have a super fantastic sparkling evening, and we'll catch you back here tomorrow evening with our special guest. So there'll be no talk of, is it Quantum of Solace, I think is the next one. Yes, Quantum of Solace. So there'll be no talk about Quantum of Solace tomorrow. You'll have to hear about that on the next time. So anyway, we're out of here. Go have a super fantastic sparkling evening. We'll catch you back here 6 p.m. tomorrow night with a guest. Until then, have a super fantastic sparkling evening. He konara.